Hi everyone, I am your host Virginia Parsons, and it really is my passion to provide you, the viewer, with a goldmine of inspirational tips, strategies, and advice to help you grow your business from inspirational businesswomen in the know. I'm so excited to introduce you to Tessa in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to say thank you, the viewer, for being here today, whether live or in replay. I know that your time is valuable, and I really want to commend you for taking the time to be here for what I think is a very special and important topic around soul connection. Now, before we get started, I have a preview for you, and if you could do me a great favor, that would be wonderful. And that is, while you're watching the preview, could you go ahead and help spread the word by clicking those buttons that'll help get the word out to anyone else you know who might benefit by this powerful information. And we'll be getting started right after the preview. All right, so we are getting started now. Today's show is sponsored by hangout-marketing.com, where you can receive a complimentary live stream marketing assessment. And why might you want to take advantage of that? Well, first of all, it'll only take you a couple of minutes. And as a result, you're going to learn a lot more about how to use live stream and video to brand, grow, and market your business. And you might even qualify for a complimentary Shine strategy session with me, where we'll sit down and discuss your business and how you can use live stream video to brand, grow, and market your business more effectively, so that you can get recognized as a go-to expert in your niche. All you need to do is text pound success to 775-800-4179, or if you're out of the country, you can certainly go to hangout-marketing.com and take that assessment. As I said, it will only take you a couple of minutes. Now, let's get into the show. And I really am excited to introduce you to Tessa today and what we're going to be talking about. So here's the thing. Does happiness sometimes feel elusive or fleeting for you? And have you ever struggled to find and experience true happiness in your life as a woman, as a business owner, or as a leader? If so, my special guest, Tessa Alburn, will guide you to a deeper understanding of how lacking a soul connection is keeping you from genuine happiness in life and in business. Now, during this interview, Tessa will discuss, first of all, why soul connection is so important, and then what you need to let go of in the process, and finally, what to cultivate for true happiness. Now, Tessa is the founder of Realized Soul and has served women and men for over 20 years as a guide, an intuitive coach, healer, and curriculum designer. The focus of her practice is helping women unlock their dream by getting you deeply connected to your authentic soul and who you came here to be, so that your inner fire lights up and you finally get your creative project fully expressed and into the world. Tessa is also a classically trained vocalist and flautist and often begins or brings the restorative power of sound into her retreats. She's lived in 9 states, 5 countries, and has scuba dived in more than 1,000 times in beautiful waters from around the world. Welcome, Tessa. Wow, you are an experienced lady for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And, sometimes I forget about some of my life experiences, right? And just all the richness that has brought to me, and the wisdom that's just shown up in everything that's happened. So it's great to be here, Virginia.
I love having you, Tessa, and I love that you've had this experience or all of these rich life experiences. And I know that they contribute to happiness on a really deep level. So let's talk
Yes.
for a moment about how you came to really embrace this idea of the importance of soul connection. Most of our viewers are interested in the path, the story, the backstory, what I call, and maybe defining moments around how you came to be doing your life's work this way. So would you share that with our audience?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll certainly share a little bit of it. As a young child, I probably had my earliest initiation into soul connection and to alternate realities at about the age of 5 through my dream life. And then I kind of forgot it because it wasn't like talked about, it wasn't, embraced. I was made to feel like I didn't belong, there was something wrong with me. And so I just kind of hid that part away. And I used to sneak books from the library on mythology and like deeper psychological truths and things like this, like as a young child. And I would hide them in my locker. I was so embarrassed that I had them, but they really helped me gain an understanding that there was so much more to life. And there had to be a reason that I was going through the experiences I was going through as a young girl, which were not often very pleasant. So, you know, I think it was 6.5, almost 7, when I pretty much had like a big breakdown, if you will, around the idea of God. I had been raised in a Methodist household, mostly because my mom was a church choir director, and I just thought, how could God do this? How could there be so much pain and so much suffering? And so I just entered into these big questions most of my life, trying to find those answers. And my journey took me to many, many places. And I'm 60, in my 60s, my young 60s now, and much has transpired. What I never could have perceived is that the richness from all my endeavors, whatever I set about to do, even if it was to like go on a bender, like the richness is in going on a bender, or learning to meditate, or just continuing to experience and find that truth, or be able to express my truth from my soul, because I was just being told everywhere I turned, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't fit in. You need to be silent, be seen, not heard, all those messages. So eventually, through extensive off and on depression, I just knew I had to break away from it all. And I started to study alternate realities in terms of like shamanic journeying was one of the arenas that I studied in and practiced very, very in a very committed way. And I learned to use my brain and then train myself to receive direct information from sources that were greater than us, like greater than any authority that I'd ever met. And I knew they were greater because I could feel the truth of them in myself. And so that kicked off a whole new journey in my adulthood. and it's just been growing ever since.
I love your story, because I identify with it. I am sure that there's a number of people watching who identify with it. And those of you who are watching, if you hear any gems or statements that Tessa shares with you that you really resonate with, I'd love to hear that from you. So, a gem for me is that questioning at a very young age, when so many of us were exposed to some form of religious upbringing, and questioning. I had very similar questions about this, Tessa, because I couldn't understand how there should be so much love, and yet I saw so much hatred and things that I thought were just so not right in the world. So I'm really resonating with that for you. And what's interesting is the long journey that you went on to find a deeper truth, a deeper connection, and, as you say, source that felt to you the correct resonance, if that's the right term. So thank you for sharing that, because I do think that this is kind of a universal question that many young people sort of struggle with. And sometimes they don't find that source. Instead, they just let religion drop away completely. And so, of course, that's their path. But nonetheless, I just think sharing that background is really, really important. And now, of course, you've taken your discovery on this soul path to such a deep level. And I do feel that as we all get older and mature, we do discover more information, greater depth to our understanding. So it's wonderful to have you here and sharing this experience with us today. So let's get into the very first topic, which is why that soul connection is so very important for everyone.
Yes, I think there's a lot of desire for people to connect with their souls, and but it's often what I would call like an immature placement of what that connection is really about. Like we might seek, soul connection and love, right? And soul connection, I want to make sure my purpose is out there. But there are a lot of ego, if you will, but more, I would say, childhood desires for fulfillment than true soul connection. So I think it's gotten a little bit, it's been misunderstood, really, what soul connection is. And there are a number of reasons, but the main thing is that our soul isn't trying to find a soul connection because that's going to fulfill the soul. That's actually coming from the ego side of things. The ego is wanting to be loved, it's wanting to be recognized, it wants celebrity, whatever it wants. But the soul itself is its main thrust, its main richness, its desire for us is simply to have us evolve, to have us learn. So we are the happiest, and our soul is the happiest when we are learning. And we need to be in alignment with what we're learning. But that learning and realizing, wow, there's just so much more to know, right? We're never done. When we continue to learn, we open up to greater and greater consciousness. Without this kind of understanding and connection with one's own soul, which one needs to listen for that connection as well, to hear the voice of their soul. Without it, you can feel lost. You can feel like you're not sure you're on the right direction. You're constantly questioning yourself, or maybe you feel like, well, my ideas just aren't ready, or they don't fit for what's happening right now, or so like I see this a lot with creatives and empaths as well. Like they just want to kind of hide what's going on. But when you're in soul connection and you're living from that place, you're able to make decisions that are important to make. Without that connection, you're always going to be questioning. There's going to be some sliver of doubt, and it's easy to get off your highest path, the highest reason that you're here for. So when you're connected with your soul, you almost can't go wrong. and the alignment becomes more easy, grace-filled, even when there are challenges. The other piece I think I see with my clients and those who are living from that place of soul, and I'm like pointing to myself here, it's like in your heart, but it's beyond your heart. It's like maybe it's in the back of your heart and it's emanating out. It has a resonance and energy, but it's a different energy than, say, the heart energy of just pure love for someone. When you're connected with this deeper river of soul, you must be in integrity. You just simply can't be out of it. And the moment you are, you're like, oh, I got off course. Let me get back on. Is this making some sense, Virginia?
I was ready to interject, but I wanted you to get all that richness out there for us. So I'm going to just sort of try to summarize to tell you how it's making sense for me. And I want to hear from the rest of you. What are you picking up from this? Because this is really wise discussion going on here from Tessa around, the idea that there are some things that you call immature placement of this idea of connection. When you're thinking it from an ego standpoint, when you're thinking about, a love connection, or, what is my purpose? And those are not bad things, but you're talking about, from my understanding, something that goes much deeper. You call it a river of soul connection, the flow of the connection that is just so much richer and really is when you're truly on course. I would like to explore that with you just a little bit more. How does someone really know when they are really in connection with a deeper soul level versus that ego that is all part of being here on this earth plane? So we can't just ignore ego, but how do we move into what you call that deeper river of connection and know that that's where we've gotten?
Well, that's a great question. I think there are two parts to what you're asking. I'll start with the first, which is, how do we know we're connected? This takes some attunement. We are so disembodied and so traumatized as a society, as individuals, as a world consciousness, that we need to learn how to become really still and feel it. So I talk about it like feeling it. It's like feeling it emotionally. There's some emotion, but it's also an energy that one attunes to. So your soul, one soul could speak to them in various ways, and we each need to learn how to listen to that soul for us. So the way that I hear mine is not going to be the same as how you hear yours, Virginia. But there are moments where you know unequivocally, that is my soul. There is no question about it. It's unattached to what is happening as a result, or a goal that I have, or an outcome that I need to have, or some reward that I want, or some acknowledgement. It's just pure energy that makes me feel I am completely in here, my light is in here, and there's this richer, it's almost a passion, but it's not like what we usually think about as passion. It's a depth and it's a connection to all that is. And then we work with that and we connect it to our light, our spirit, and we cultivate our light and we allow the soul to direct that. So the soul is like a director for the light. And so the how might be a lot of embodiment, like figuring out, well, what's this mean when I feel this or I sense that? What is that? What is that talking to me? Finding places of stillness within ourselves and without in the world where we know the only information coming to us comes from like deep knowing. Deep knowing. if anyone who's listening has ever surrendered to something in their life, really surrendered, the few moments after that surrender is pure, usually pure soul connection. It's surrender of everything that we've been trying to control, and it's allowing the universal energy to lift us up and carry us forward without having to know and direct it all ourselves.
So it's like, in a way, letting go of the questioning. And
Yes,
instead,
for
it's
sure.
an inner knowing. You've moved into a place of trust, and as you say, you've let go of what you would consider any outcome, one way or another. You've surrendered. And to me, it sounds very expansive. And I know of circumstances where I have gone into that stillness, and that's the what you say is so important. And I would agree, boy, we need a lot more stillness in this world and in our life to connect on a soul level, no doubt about it. I have had those experiences on numerous occasions, and it's not when I'm looking for it. So that's what I'm getting at. It's, oh, the connection. I feel this. I can tell it. And all of a sudden, I will get what I would call a stream of consciousness of something, of information I never even expected or was looking for, but it came to me, and it came to me with great ease, very comfortably, naturally, and it's sort of like, oh, an aha moment. But for me, it just came from a place of feeling very expansive. So I think I know what it feels like to be connected, but I did want to hear it from your voice and your wise experience.
Yes, I love that you brought in the word expansive. It absolutely is. And it's expansive and still at the same time. It's really, words are a challenge to describe the soul, certainly. People have attempted to do that over the years. One of the other questions that you had was, what will we need to do to get there, to be able to have that soul connection? And that brings me to a few points that I'd love to touch on for our listeners here. Because when we have let go of all the stuff that we've been thinking we needed to hold on to, then we start to recognize that, oh, that is my soul. Then we can cultivate it. But first we need to let go of some things. And one of the primary things we need to let go of is suffering in any form. We're also going to need to let go of ideas, rules, all the conditioning, the programming that keeps you in suffering, telling you this is how it's supposed to be, and if that's not happening, then you're bad, you're wrong, you haven't been successful, whatever it is. So to be soul connected, you need to let go of suffering. And I think there could be some surprises here, so I'm gonna share a few of these things that we would want to let go of to have that soul connection. I'm kind of laughing at myself because not long ago I needed to let go of anger. I was creating a lot of suffering for myself because I was so angry, and eventually I was able to do that. But I was like, this is so interesting. Why is this showing up? The first suffering that I really want to bring to your attention is the suffering of silence. Being in silence, feeling stifled, or that sense that if I share something or if I ask for something, I'm going to be rejected, or I'm going to be unloved, or I'm going to be worse, shamed or humiliated, right? Any of those lower forms of rejection. Reaching out, sharing what's going on, even if it's super painful. So it's really, really essential. And giving up the suffering of that stifledness, like that's actually a choice, to be feeling stifled. So there are ways one can express, even if it doesn't fit into current parameter of the situation. So finding other ways to express so that you're not feeling stifled, giving up the suffering of not knowing. I love this because when we hit a roadblock in our consciousness, we often will, revert to, well, I just don't know what that is. It's kind of like the victim, a disempowered state. Or we could go to blaming and that they've got to figure that out. We'll put it on somebody else. It's a way to not take responsibility. The thing that we want to do is give up the suffering around not knowing and embrace not knowing. We also want to give up ideas of what it means to be spiritual. But I'm going to go ahead and pause here, Virginia, because I have a feeling you might have something that you want to say.
Well, I love what you're saying about giving up things, and they're not the kind of things that you give up as New Year's resolutions, are they?
Definitely not.
To give up suffering and to give up silence and to give up the inner critic and to give up anger. These are some of the ones that you were talking about. I see that as essential to the connection, because those energies, those what I would call inappropriate beliefs, programmed beliefs and attitudes, only cloud or make the waters muddy, in my opinion. So it makes sense to me that you are having us really tune into what we need to let go of, because oftentimes we don't even realize we're hauling it around with us like an old worn out backpack that needs to get unpacked and cleaned up so that you can continue your journey. So am I on track with that?
I would say so. Exactly. And I think to your point, a lot of people might be thinking, well, of course I know that. I do that. I'm all positive. I'm going to just be grateful today. And there's kind of a lip service to it, a lip service to actually processing and handling all those things that we're talking about, because we can't just like throw them away. We need to work with them and learn from them. There's a reason you're going through anger. There's a reason for all of these affects. And so when we can embrace them and learn from them, what is the lesson here on a deeper level, that our soul's like, yay, and we're creating greater and greater soul connection and maturity as we take greater responsibility.
All right, so let's move it into, we know we got to let go of this stuff. I would call it stuff. Just the energy around that stuff is interfering with a deeper connection. So how do we go on to really cultivate happiness as we find and get more and more familiar with and are in that state of deeper connection on a more regular basis? How do we cultivate the happiness?
One of the purest ways, I believe, to happiness is through experiences of direct revelation. And what I mean by this is creating your very own connection with, whether you call it the universe, God, source, ascended masters, whatever it is, with that cosmic life intelligence. The energy of all that is to have some way of accessing direct information. We want to stop giving our power away to others who say, this is how you have to do it, or this is what you should think, and instead learn methods to receive that information yourself and know if it's on the mark, and to know in yourself, is this truth? Is this wisdom? Is this light? Is this love? And to really learn to discern. So you're connecting into high levels of energy and then being able to understand the messages that you're receiving. There's also an element of like a courage or a fierceness and being really embodied and empowered as you do this. And I call it like holding the sword to it. And so when I think that phrase, I'm like, yes, I am the warrior. I am the queen or the princess, right? And I'm just going to slice and dice anything that is not truth. It reminds me of one of the cards in the tarot deck, the Princess of Swords, right? She's just slaying. She's slaying illusion. She's slaying darkness and chaos. She has no more use for it, no more tolerance for it. And she's showing up fiercely, strongly, empowered. She's not saying, oh my gosh, look at all this chaos. Oh. She's like, hell no, that is not true. And so then she can really express and embody from strength, right? Not weakness or not worrying or looking for approval. And I think the third thing I really wanted to share today with your audience is around having standards and safety for yourself. So when I talk about standards, I think most people kind of know what that means, but I'm talking about a deeper level of standards, truth, like standards of who you're going to be and how you're going to show up. And what are the standards that you need in response to that in order to be in relationship with others? Holding those standards, and when they're not being met, to know that you can lovingly and compassionately speak your truth and request a shift, request a change, request a different conversation. And the safety side of things is having a deep knowing that you're actually safe no matter what. This knowing will help you to heal the traumas that you've had and the little tests that show up in your life. I recently had one. Somebody bullied me in a parking lot. And I was like, oh, I'm actually safe. And what can I do to create more safety in this moment? Now, part of me was still, resonating from that incursion, that energetic attack, a verbal attack, and partly physical on my car, actually. And I still had some pieces to love and to bring into the present moment. So it's really about creating safety, remembering that you're safe, doing your work to have that safety. So it's not like, I need a gazillion protection energies around me or anything like that, or I've got to keep myself sequestered. It's safety from within, and safety knowing that ultimately we are all safe. Your soul is safe. It is infinite. And the more we can be with that, the less concerned we are with the fears of the day. And the more we continue to live from authenticity.
There's so many powerful ideas in what you just shared. And I'm not going to reiterate all of them. I'm going to encourage all of you that are watching to go back and listen to this segment in particular. There's so much important information there. I love the idea of holding the sword, of being courageous and knowing what you stand for and how you show up in the world, and getting really clear about that, so that you're not confused or influenced by others or news or what would you say, the mass consciousness that seems to be penetrating so much right now. So that's powerful information. All of you, listen to all that again and think about it and reflect on it relative to your own life and your own soul connection. So much more on the standards, but finally the idea of that we are inherently safe, because we certainly all do react to physical uncertainty and threats. But to be able to wrap yourself around this idea that we are all inherently safe is just really profound and well worth thinking through, and well worth embodying. I think we've got to embody it on the physical and connect it to the spiritual to be really aware of that truth on a deep level. So, whew, yeah, I feel my energy expanded just from connecting with you on all of this. Tessa, I know that you've got places to go and people to see, but I do want to make sure that people get a little bit of an understanding about your gift, because you do have a very special gift. I'm going to bring it up here and tell people where to get it, and then you can tell them what it's about. So if you want to pick up Tessa's, I know, brilliant gift today, all you have to do is go to hmtips.com/Tessa gift, hmtips.com/Tessa gift. Tessa, tell them a little bit about why they want to go and grab this gift today.
Absolutely. This is a soul connection assessment that wherever you are on your journey, you could have been doing a lot of soul work over the years, a lot of deep spiritual practice, or maybe you're even newer to these ideas. Either way, this assessment is going to help you see some of the areas where maybe you didn't know were impacting your ability to connect with your soul, to hear your soul, and to express your soul's wisdom in the world. So it just takes a few minutes. There are different points of access. So there's going to be some questions around intuition, empathy, things of this nature, energy, embodiment. So even if you've done a lot of spiritual work, I find a lot of people that I work with who've done, spiritual work for years, it can be really up in their head about it and not in the human experience and the embodiment of the energy. And your body is here to help you, to help your soul have these experiences. So I think you can gain a lot of insight simply from taking the assessment, and it would be my pleasure to send you your results.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. And I want to thank all of you viewers as well for taking the time. I know your time was well spent here today. And please, if you found this information valuable and you know someone else who would benefit by it, please send it on to them so that they can experience what you've experienced here today with Tessa. Tessa, before we go, any just final words of wisdom that you want to use to wrap everything up today?
Yes, I would say that whatever you are endeavoring upon, whatever your intention is for yourself, to add some love, have some love as a basis, right? The connection of love and self-compassion, and let that kindness help begin to guide you more than it has been, so that you can speak your truth and not have to hide anymore.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let kindness guide you. I love it. And I love that you were here with us today, Tessa. And I look forward to more and more of the world seeing things from your perspective and embracing energy from the wisdom that you've shared with us today. So thank you so much for being here, and all of you, thank you for joining us. It's been a wonderful journey. Let me bring you back up, Tessa, for just a moment. Thank you once again for being here, Tessa, and for all of you. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next Inspirational Business Women Show.
Thank you, Virginia.
Thanks so much for watching today. Do you know someone who would be a great guest for our show? Or would you like to be a guest on the Inspirational Business Women Show? Let's shine the spotlight on your expertise. We'll share your story while offering tips, strategies, and advice to our viewers. Expert interviews are a great way to build your reputation as the go-to expert. Go to shinetips.com/IBWS to apply today. Women are waiting for your message, and I can't wait to interview you.